Again, your vocab notebook should be opened up to a new clean page, and your textbook should be open to page 78. The title for today's notes is, so make sure you're in the social studies section, Chapter 3, Lesson 2. It is called United States Regions, and then you need today's date, December 1st, 2020. Once you have written the title of today's notes and the date, make sure that your notebook is underneath your textbook and you're ready to read along. That means your finger is ready to follow along, and face shields are on so that when you read, we can hear you. Okay. Go ahead and read on page 78. Ethan. Because you can add that later on, even when we're done with the lesson. You can finish the title. If you're not finished with the title, just pause, because you can do that. That's not getting erased. I don't even have to erase it until after you guys leave. Okay.
United States region.
A little slower. Make sure you're being real loud. Slower so we can follow along. Because our fingers sometimes don't move as fast as our brain, so we have to make sure that our fingers can keep up. Okay?
United States regions. Here's a riddle. The teacher says, how many regions are you in now?
Slow down a little.
No one says a word. You're on the continent of North America. This teacher hints. That's one region. Country, United States. A classmate asks, state. You say, add your states. Right, the teacher says. That's 3 so far. Is it city and region? Sort of. It sure is, the teacher answered. That makes 4 regions. Let's keep going.
So, you can be in more than one region at a time. In fact, we are in the same regions as this. We're on the continent of North America, because remember, these are all political regions. Political regions have specific borders and they share a government. Does North America just end randomly where we have no idea where it reads? Kingston, why are you closing your book right now? Does North America just end in the middle of some land or in the middle of the ocean? No, it ends right where the country ends. So there's one. We're in the United States. There's another political region. Please make sure you're paying attention. This is the whole reason why we spent 3 days on one lesson last week. Because nobody was paying attention. Nobody was listening. Everybody was off in their own little world. We're in Tennessee, which is a 3rd region. And then we're in Memphis, which is the 4th region. Who can think of any other regions that we are in right now? Smith.
A town?
We're in the city of Memphis. Can we be in a city and a town at the same time?
No.
No, a town is just a smaller city. So no, we cannot be in a town. Victoria.
Street?
Can you guys please be specific? Not just street. What street? A street is not a region anyway. A street is just something that you drive or walk on. What county are we in? Zadie. Shelby County. If you're at school, we're in a specific neighborhood. A neighborhood is an example of a region. What neighborhood are we in? Mason. Midtown. If you get even further, I think we're in like Central Gardens, which is an even smaller neighborhood within the larger neighborhood of Midtown. We are in lots of regions. We're also in the, we're in several economic regions. We are in a region where there's lots of farming, like farming for cotton or soybeans. We are also along a river. So we are in a, oh gosh, I can't remember what it's called. My head is, I've just gotten thrown off. We are in lots of regions all at once. But there's another type of political region that we're going to talk about today. Now remember, political regions have specific borders and they share a government. So let's talk about them. Let's see, that's me. I'm going to keep reading. So everybody, finger ready to follow along? On page 79. Page 79. Our country's regions. The United States is made up of 50 states. Each state is a political region with exact borders. Remember, we learned political regions have exact borders because governments have to know where their authority starts and ends. If you are a governor of Tennessee, does that mean you have any say in what happens with people in DeSoto County, Mississippi? No, it's really close to Tennessee, but does the governor of Tennessee have any authority over the people in Mississippi? No. That's why political regions have exact borders, because the people in charge have to know exactly where their authority is, so that they don't try to make laws for people that they have nothing to do with. 5 regions. People often group states together into regions. This makes it easier to study parts of the United States. This textbook groups all the states into 5 large regions. How many regions are there that this textbook says? Class? 5.
Large regions.
There are 5 large regions. They are called the Northeast, the Southwest, the Midwest, the Southwest, and the West. The states that make up each region are all located in the same part of the United States. They share similar physical features, economies, and ways of life. So, if we look at this map, at the top of page 79, it shows us these regions. So be looking at it while we wait for this. I might have to erase the date, but if you have to go back and write the title, you know what the date is. Give it just a minute. Oh, I don't think I do. No, I don't. Okay, good. So this map on the top of page 79 shows the regions of the United States. Without even looking, we know how many are they going to show. How many of these large regions? Class? 5. There are 50 what? States. But we're looking at the regions. This textbook breaks them into these 5 regions. Now, most people in the United States will agree that these are the 5 regions. However, you may come to some people who say, well, Ohio is in the Northeast, not the Midwest. But that's why it says this textbook. Because most Americans will agree that there are 5 regions: the Northeast, the Southeast, the Midwest, the Southwest, and the Northwest. And they will agree that most of the states in that area, because it's direction, so there's really no other choice. However, some people might say that instead of Ohio being in the Midwest, Ohio's in the Northeast. Or some people may say, well, West Virginia and Virginia aren't in the Southeast, they're in the Northeast. Or Montana isn't in the West, it's in the Midwest. Or maybe Utah isn't in the West, it's in the Southwest. But this, we are going with what this textbook says for whatever we do. Does everybody understand? So anytime during social studies that you get a question like, what states are in the Northeast? Are you going to say Ohio? No, because this textbook is what we're going by. So we can see our 5 regions. We have the Northeast, which includes the states of Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. As you can see, Delaware is just a little bit of pink. Then we have the southeast, which is West Virginia, Maryland, Virginia, Kentucky, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. Now this is another one. Some people may say, hey, Maryland's not in the southeast, it's in the northeast. But if you get a question this year in the 4th grade, what region is Maryland in? What are you going to say? Zari?
In the southeast.
The southeast, because we're going with what this textbook says for this school year. Then we have the Midwest, which includes the states North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan. And then we have the Southwest, which is the smallest region, or not the smallest, but the region with the least states, according to this textbook, because it includes Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma. Only 4 states in that region. And then we have the West, which includes Colorado, Utah, Nevada, California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana. I can't remember if I said Wyoming or not. So Wyoming. And then, of course, Alaska and Hawaii. Now, I know they're not connected, but what region are Alaska and Hawaii considered a part of? What region are Alaska and Hawaii considered a part of? Victoria? The West. Because we can see the West is all purple, the Southwest is green, the Midwest is yellow, Southwest is orange, Northeast is pink. Is Canada included in any of these regions? Zadie?
No.
No. Why?
Because Canada's not near.
Because Canada is not part of the United States. What about Mexico? Is Mexico part of any of these regions? Smith?
No,
Why?
because Mexico is its own country.
Mexico is its own country. These regions are part of the United States. So, of course, we're not going to include Canada or Mexico because they are their own countries. Which of these regions are we a part of? Which of these regions are we a part of? Carla?
The Southeast region.
The Southeast region. Now, do you notice how each region has exact borders? Do you notice that on this map? Remember in lesson 1, we saw on page 72. So look back, keep your hand here and look back at page 72. When we looked at that map in the middle of the diagram, we see that the interior plains, does it have specific borders? No. What about the major corn growing region at the bottom? Does it have specific borders? No. What about the Midwest region in the top? Does it have specific borders? Yes. We say that a region has specific borders when it ends at the state's border. If it does not start or begin at a state's border, it does not have exact borders. Because think of physical regions where they share some type of landform. Can you just tell a river to stop flowing? Like, oh, we're at the end of Kansas, that means it can't flow into Oklahoma. Is that something that people can do? No. What about an economic region, like a fishing region? Are they going to say, oh, well, I know that Texas only has a coast here, but Amarillo, which is way up here, well, you're in Texas, so you still have to be a fishing region. Would we do that? Could all of Texas be a fishing region? No, because there's only a little part of it that's along the coast. Can you fish and get a lot of fish over here? No, there may be some rivers that you can get some fish from, but could you have a fishing business right here in Amarillo, Texas? No, it would probably not be a smart idea. Because are you going to catch enough fish to actually get good business? No. So remember, political borders have exact borders. They end at the end of the state. Physical, cultural, and economic borders are not exact. Because you can't just say, hey, river, stop flowing. because you're leaving Kansas and getting into Oklahoma. Or, okay, Texas, your entire state has to be a fishing region because you do touch a little bit of the water, because that would be pretty dumb up here to use fishing as your main source of income. Same with cultural regions. Cultural regions are usually typically very small, like within a city. So if there are a lot of people in Little Italy in New York City, should we say that all of New York is a very Italian region? No, because there's just a really big number of Italians right in that one little place. So that is why political regions end at state borders. The rest of the regions, just because you're leaving the state or even leaving the country, does not mean that region ended. Because think of the Rocky Mountains. They what is the word? Go, whatever. All the way from up here in Canada, all the way down to Mexico. Can you say, hey, Rocky Mountains, you can't pass the Arizona border into Mexico? You can't do that. No. So that physical region of the Rocky Mountains goes all the way through many different states and countries. Political regions are the only ones that have exact borders. Okay, let's go back and read. Kingston, please read next. Loud and slow. Put your finger, everybody finger, ready to follow along. And Kingston, go ahead. Loud and slow.
National capital.
Louder.
The national capital. Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, is what is called a federal district. It is not part of any state. The district's representatives in Congress have limited voting power. However, people in the district vote for the president and elect local leaders.
So what that's saying is we know Washington, D.C. is our nation's capital. People live in Washington, D.C. But is Washington, D.C. its own state? No. Is it part of another state like Virginia or Maryland that are close by? No. It's its own little district. It's very weird. It's not part of any state, but it's also not its own state. It's called a federal district. That means the people there still have the rights that we all have, like the right to vote. However, their representatives don't have as much power as like representatives from Tennessee because they're not considered a state. That's actually something that people who live in Washington, D.C. keep arguing. They say we should be a state. We should have the same rights as people in all the other states. Why? Just because we live in this one place in the United States, don't we get all the same rights? Well, they're fighting for that. But for now, Washington, D.C. is not a state, and it's not part of any other state. Does that mean it's not part of the United States? No. It's just its own weird little thing. What are the 5 regions that this textbook groups the 50 states into? Mason, tell me one.
The Southwest.
The Southwest. Carla, tell me another.
Southeast.
The Southeast. Michaela, tell me another.
The Midwest.
The Midwest. Victoria, tell me another.
The West. The West.
The West. Cullen, tell me another.
The Northeast.
The Northeast. Very good. Okay, go ahead and turn the page. Okay, so everybody should be turned to page 80. So we just talked about how states are regions. What type of regions are states? Are they physical regions, political regions, economic regions, or cultural regions? Which ones are they? Colin?
Political.
Political. We know that because political regions share a what? Mason? A government. And political regions have what type of borders? Zadie? Exact borders. Come on, these are all things. Everybody should have been ready to raise their hand because these are all things I've said multiple times within the last 20 minutes. Sorry, don't act confused. You know I've said that. Okay, finger ready to follow along. And Kingston, please keep reading.
Every state is a
Oh, you have to start with the title and slow down and louder.
regions within a state.
So, we know states are political regions, but there's regions even smaller. Because there are political regions within states. We already know what they are, but let's talk a little more about them. Keep going.
Every state is a political region with its own government. Each state also is divided into smaller political regions.
Because the reason that we divide the country up into states is to make it easier to govern, right? A state is a lot smaller, there's a lot less people, so it's a lot easier to govern. But there's still a lot of people in a state. So then they have to break it down even further to make it even easier to govern. Thank you, Kingston. Read next. What is the next smallest way? So we have states and then we have something a little smaller. Zari, what are they? Go ahead and read. Loud and slow.
Countries.
Not countries. Look at that word closely.
Counties.
Counties. Pay close attention to what you're reading, because if we read that as countries, it would completely change the meaning. Go ahead.
Nearly every state is divided into political regions called counties.
Okay, Zari, you need to be a little louder, and you need to read with a little more expression. Okay, Zari, what's our first vocab word?
Counties.
Counties. And what are counties? Is there a good definition for that here, Zari?
No.
Not really. So where should we look? Where should you look? Where do we look if we don't have a good definition right there in front of us? Where do we look? Zari and Zadie?
In the
In the back of the book where
In the back of the book. What is that called? Cullen?
the glossary.
In the glossary. So Zari, I need you to go back and look in the glossary. I don't think my book has the glossary in it, which is frustrating. Oh, maybe it does. So Zari, go back in the glossary and find counties. Remember, glossaries are just like dictionaries, but instead of having every word, they only have words that go with what's happening in the textbook. They are in alphabetical order, so you look it up the same way that you would look it up in a dictionary.
they found the glossary.
Okay, Zari, what is a county, or what are counties? Okay, Zari, you're supposed to tell me when you found the word. Who can help her with that word? Zadie?
Section.
A section.
A section of a state.
So counties are sections of a state. Now the reason we did not say a section of a state is because we have counties. Does the word county say a or one section of a state? Counties is what? Is it singular or plural? Is counties singular or plural? Smith?
Plural.
Plural. And a section of a state means one section of a state. So could the plural word counties mean one section of a state, Smith?
No.
No, it would have to mean more than one. So that's why we changed it from a section of a state to sections of a state. Yes, Sadie?
Was that just a mistake they made when they printed the book?
No, it's just because if we read this as nearly every state is divided into political regions called county, it wouldn't make sense. But then when they give, most of the time when you read in a dictionary a definition, it'll be the singular version. So in a glossary, it's just like a dictionary. It just only includes words from a textbook. So even though the word here in the lesson is plural, they're going to give you the singular definition because that's just how glossaries and dictionaries and all that kind of thing works. Okay, Zari, when you're ready, go ahead and continue reading.
Some states have different names for this kind of region. Louisiana is divided into parishes. Alaskans divide their state into
Use the pronunciation key.
boroughs.
Boroughs. When you see UH, you know that you're not saying it like you. If you see a vowel in H, you know you're using a short sound. So instead of bureaus, it's boroughs. So what they're saying is if you go to Louisiana, it's not called, like here we live in Shelby County. If you go to Louisiana, you don't live in Shelby County, you live in Shelby Parish. They don't have a Shelby Parish, but just, I can't think of what they do have. So they say parish instead of county. If you go to Alaska, you wouldn't say I live in Shelby County, you would say I live in Shelby Borough. Why that is, I don't know. You'd have to look it up. They just want it to be different, I guess. I'm sure there's a reason for it, I just don't know what it is. Okay, Zari, but they are the same thing. They mean the same thing, there's just a different word for it. Please sit on your bottoms. And Zari, keep going. Read the next paragraph.
The town or city that is the center of a country's government is called the country seat.
Zari, that is not the word country. You're changing the meaning by not reading the word closely. So start again, but you need to make sure that you're reading it correctly. You guys have got to make sure that you are reading the correct word. Otherwise, you could be completely changing the meaning of it, which then leads to wrong answers on tests and wrong information. So make sure you're reading it correctly. So Zari, start again, please.
The town or city that is the center of a county's government is called the county seat.
Good. So Zari, what's our next word?
County seat.
County seat. So, just like states have to have a capital city, what's the capital of Tennessee? Kingston? Nashville. Because you can't have, you have to have a place where the governor is going to live and where all the state representatives and legislators are going to go. So just like a state needs a capital city, a county needs a county seat. So the county seat is where the government building is, where the mayor of that county does his work. Okay? And what is a county seat, Zari?
The town or city that is the center.
Oh, you muted yourself too soon.
The town or city that is the center of a government is called the county seat.
It's the center of a what government? You're still muted.
A center of a county's.
So it's the town or city that is the center of a county's government. So that means a county has more than one city or town in it. That's just how it is. So that means it has to have a county seat. It has a town or a city that's the center of that county's government. That's where the mayor of that county does his job, because counties do have mayors. Cities have mayors, and so do counties. The county seat of Shelby County is Memphis. The county seat of Tipton County is, I think it might be Covington. I think. I'm not sure.
It's either Covington or Atoka.
I think it's Covington. But I might be wrong, so. But I think it's Covington. And then the county seat of Fayette County is, I think, Somerville. So that means that's where that county's government all meets. When they need to have meetings, when they need to come up with laws, if they're in Fayette County, they go to Somerville. If they're in if they're in Shelby County, they go to Memphis. If they're in Tipton County, they go to Covington. Because you have to have a place where they're going to meet. All those mayors in that county will come to the county seat to have their meeting with the mayor of that county. Okay, Zari, when you're finished, keep going. Finish out that paragraph.
County governments make their own laws. They also have their own courts and police to enforce those laws.
Very good. So as you're driving around, you may see Memphis police cars, but you also might see Shelby County police cars, because counties have their own laws. That means people in Memphis may have different laws than people in Germantown, because Germantown is a separate city. But if it's a Shelby County law, then we both have to follow that, no matter what city we're in. So counties are different than cities. Which ones are bigger, counties or cities? Mason.
City?
Think about it. Would a county have a city that's the center if a county was bigger? Which one is bigger, a county or a city? Kingston. A county. That's why it comes first in this section, before cities, because counties are bigger than cities. The state of Tennessee has, I don't know how many counties, quite a few, but not as many cities. Think about Shelby County. That includes Memphis. It includes Germantown, Collierville, Bartlett, Arlington. I think Millington is still in Shelby County. And more that I'm forgetting. There's more, I'm forgetting them right now. Lakeland, and there's more, but I can't remember. So each of those are cities and towns within the larger county of Shelby County. Okay, thank you, Zari. Now, these counties are broken down even more, because even though counties are smaller than states, there still might be a lot of people, so we need to break it down even more. Mason, please read next, loud and slow. Everybody, finger ready to follow along. Make sure you're being really loud so everybody can hear, and slow.
Cities. Cities are another kind of political region within states.
Good job, just a little slower so we can keep up.
For example, each state shows a capital city to be the center of its government.
Which we know, the capital of Tennessee is what? Colin?
Nashville.
Nashville. Yeah. Keep going.
In the same way, each city sets up its own.
Use the pronunciation guide. So what it does, those little dots, everything between those are, the dots show the syllables. So our first syllable is MYU. How would you say that? Mu. The second one, how would you say that? Remember that vowel, then H, tells you it's a short vowel sound. So not an I, because I is long I. What's short I? Hold on. Okay. Mason, did you figure it out? Who can help him out? How do we say that word? We have municipal. That's how you say each of those syllables. So if you put all those syllables together, Mason, do you know what you would get, or do you need some help? Municipal. Municipal. Okay, so start that sentence again in the same way.
In the same way.
A little louder.
In the same way, each city sets up its own
Municipal.
or city government.
Good. So our next word is what, Mason?
Municipal.
Municipal. Municipal. And what is municipal? It means the same thing as what word? It's a synonym of what word?
A city.
City. When it says municipal or city and then another comma, they're saying that word between the commas is a synonym. So a municipal government means the same thing as a city government. Mason, when you're ready, you can keep reading. So just like states have to have a capital city, well, cities also have to have a place where the government works out of. For us, it's that building downtown on Main Street that you may or may not have seen. Or if you did see it, you may not have known. That was our municipal building, our city government building. That's where the mayor has his office and where all the other city leaders have offices and where they meet when they need to have meetings. Okay, Mason, when you're ready, you can go ahead. Or hold on one second. Yes, Smith.
It might just be my internet connection, but everyone is like frozen and blurry.
I think.
No, it's not just hers. It's mine too.
Okay, well, sorry.
Mine is clear.
Huh? Yeah, and mine is too. So, Smith, I think it might just be you right now.
My mom was on a call and it was glitchy, so it might just be our internet.
It could be. Okay, Mason, go ahead.
In most cities, a mayor or a city manager leads the exclusive land.
Not exclusive. Don't worry. Just go slow. Look at each syllable. Executive. What is it?
Executive.
There you go. Because you know these words, you just have to slow down and make sure you're reading the right one.
In most cities, a mayor or city manager leads the executive branch of a city government. A city council forms the.
I don't think Mason was here when we talked about this. What is this word? Zadie?
Legislative.
Legislative. I think you weren't here when we learned that word. Legislative.
A city council forms the legislative branch. It makes the city's laws. Larger cities also have their own courts and judges to enforce city laws.
Good. So, cities, just like states, just like countries, just like counties, cities have their own government. They're led by who? A city government is led by who? Zadie?
The executive branch.
Not the executive branch. It's in there. Mason read it. The city government is led by who? Victoria? A mayor or a Mason?
City government.
Not city government. City. Michaela? City manager. Now, city managers are only for like small towns or cities. Most cities have mayors. Now, this could also be true of towns. Towns also have mayors. But do you think a town, it says larger cities also have their own courts and judges to enforce city laws. Knowing what you know about towns, do you think a town would necessarily have its own court? Why? Yes or no, and why? Come on, guys, think of what, please, make inferences. It says the words, larger cities also have their own courts and judges to enforce city laws. Knowing what I've told you 8 million times about towns and cities, do you think a town would have its own city government, would have its own courts or judges? Why or why not? Zadie.
No, because the town is not big enough to have a city court or judge.
Good. No, because most towns would not be big enough. Because which one's bigger, cities or towns? This is the problem. Like 80% of you are not paying attention right now. You're playing with things at your desk, or you're just staring off into space. Are cities or towns bigger? Carla.
Town.
Michaela.
City.
Cities. Carla, I've said this many, many times. Cities are bigger. Do we call New York City a town? No. Munford, Tennessee would be a town. Which one is bigger, New York City or Munford, Tennessee? Carla.
New York City.
New York City. Cities are big. Towns are small. Towns are not big enough to be considered a city. So that means if larger cities have their own courts and judges, would a town necessarily have their own courts and judges? Probably not, because it's too small. So what are two kinds of political regions within a state? What are two kinds of political regions within a state? Smith, tell me one.
Counties.
How do you know that? How do you know that counties is one of the answers?
Because you said it.
Well, I said it, but also what can you just look at right here? What is the title of this section?
Regions within a state.
Regions within a state. And then we have what two subtitles under regions within a state? We can tell they're subtitles because they're smaller. Smith, what two subtitles do we have?
Counties and cities.
So that means counties and cities must be what, Smith? Based on the fact that our larger title, regions within a state, has two subtitles, counties and cities. What does that tell us about counties and cities? What are they?
That they're regions within a state.
They are regions within a state. Look at that question again. What are two kinds of political regions within a state? Well, look, our title literally says regions within a state. And then we have two smaller titles underneath, counties and cities. There's only two of those smaller titles. They come under the larger title, regions within a state. So that means the answer to the question, what are two kinds of political regions within a state, have to be counties and cities. Was that very hard to find? But if you're not really thinking about the question and you're not really paying attention to what the book says, is it going to be harder? These reading check questions in this textbook come straight from the textbook. You really don't even have to make inferences. Sometimes it may be worded a little bit differently, but it means the same thing. Okay, we're going to stop for today because we only have 10 more minutes before it's time to pack up, which is not enough time to finish. So we'll finish that tomorrow. So go ahead and put your things for social studies away.